He gets rich somewhere else. Then he comes to Montana. 1923's final may set up the next Yellowstone villain. Banner Creighton, Jerome Flynn, may have paved the way for the next Yellowstone prequel show at the end of 1923 Season 2, thanks to one important line. Banner Creighton has always been an important part of the cast of 1923, but he became an even more vital player at the end of 1923 Season 2. In the finale, Banner finally turned on his evil business partner, Donald Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, and decided to get himself and his family out of Montana. Unfortunately, that decision came a bit too late, and Banner became one of several main characters who died in 1923 Season 2's finale. Though Banner Creighton died after being shot by Sheriff McDowell, Robert Patrick, he could still have a big impact on the Yellowstone timeline. Now that 1923 is over, many viewers are eagerly awaiting the next Yellowstone spin-off show Taylor Sheridan has in store. It's still a long ways away, but Sheridan's next Yellowstone prequel, 1944, will continue 1923's story. If I'm right about the importance of one of Banner Creighton's final words, then we already know who 1944's main villain will be. The entire reason Banner Creighton was at the train station at the same time as the Duttons and the rest of Whitfield's men is because he was trying to get his family out of Montana. He bought Ellie, Sarah Randall Hunt, and Henry, Justin Stella, tickets to Portland, Oregon, before Jacob, Harrison Ford, confronted him. While Banner's plan obviously didn't go off perfectly, Ellie and Henry did manage to get on the train unscathed and will presumably make it to Oregon safely. Jacob even gave his word that it would happen, which gave Banner peace in his final moments. The fact that Henry and Ellie got out of Montana safely is important, but there was one moment before then that could be even more pertinent to 1944. Henry asked why he didn't have a future in Montana, and Banner replied that a man can't get rich in Montana. He gets rich somewhere else, then he comes to Montana, and he gets even richer. That line, and the money Banner gave to Ellie, may hint at exactly what Henry is planning to do once he reaches Oregon: make a fortune, then come back to Montana. Going to Oregon saved Ellie and Henry's lives, but it didn't solve all their problems. Ellie still had to watch Banner get shot down by Sheriff McDowell, and Henry now has to take care of his mother and finish growing up all alone. Henry Creighton will likely never forget the role the Duttons played in Banner's death, even though Sheriff McDowell is the one who actually killed his father. It was, after all, Banner and Jacob's land dispute that started all the trouble in the first place. And McDowell only shot Banner because the former had sided with the Duttons. With all those pieces in place, I feel like 1923 subtly set up 1944's main villain. I can almost see Henry Creighton going to Oregon, making a fortune of his own through gold, logging, or some other industry, and coming back to Montana both for more money and to avenge his father. It would make a lot of sense for Henry to still want revenge for Banner's death, even though 1944 takes place 20 years after 1923. Plus, that time skip is the perfect length for Henry to have the years and resources necessary to take down a dynasty as powerful as the Dutton family tree. Henry would also be a great antagonist for 1944. He's basically a perfect foil for both the Duttons, and, more specifically, John Dutton II, Spencer's son. Henry is the next step in the Creighton family lineage, and the money he got from Banner basically makes the Creightons a less powerful and more ruthless version of the Duttons. Henry also directly benefited from his father's sins, just as John will benefit from all the people Spencer murdered. John Doe would also have plenty of reason to go after Henry in turn, as Spencer blamed Whitfield, and by extension, Banner, for Alexandra's death. With Henry Creighton as its protagonist, 1944 could be poised to give the Duttons their most daunting villain yet. Henry's vengeance for Banner would force Spencer to confront the uglier parts of his decisions and justify them to John too. Additionally, if Henry did make a fortune in Oregon, he would basically combine the resources and power of Donald Whitfield with the white-hot rage and passion of Banner Creighton into a much more intimidating antagonist. I don't know for sure that Taylor Sheridan will continue focusing on the Creightons after 1923, but I am sure that it would be a great decision to do so. There's something about Montana. It doesn't just attract cowboys and cattle barons, it attracts trouble. The kind of trouble that wears fine suits stitched in faraway cities, trouble that smells of oil, industry, and ambition. The kind that doesn't work the land but wants to own it. And in the final moments of 1923, with all its grit, tragedy, and slow-burning tension, Taylor Sheridan may have just planted the seeds for the next great villain in the ever-growing Yellowstone universe. He gets rich somewhere else, then he comes to Montana. That simple phrase, almost like a warning carried on the wind, feels less like a throwaway line and more like prophecy. It encapsulates a truth about Montana that the Duttons have been wrestling with for generations. No matter how hard you fight for it, there's always someone coming to take it from you. And they're not always brandishing guns. They're wielding influence, cash, and ruthless ambition. The shadow on the horizon. 1923 ends not with resolution, but with a shift. Spencer Dutton is still lost in the churn of fate. Alexandra separated from him on a foggy London pier, and the Yellowstone Ranch left under the stewardship of a dying Jacob and a battle-hardened Kara. Meanwhile, far away, men are getting rich. Railroads are expanding, corporations are consolidating, and the world is shifting from horses to horsepower. It's only a matter of time before one of those men, someone with deep pockets and cold eyes, looks at Montana not as a home, but as an investment. Who is he? He could be a copper baron from Butte who's turned his attention east. A railroad magnate whose reach has finally stretched toward Paradise Valley. Maybe he's an oil tycoon, flush with World War I profits, eager to start drilling into the heart of the American West. Whoever he is, he's not from here, and that's the point. He didn't earn this land through generations of backbreaking labor, fighting drought and blizzard and blood feud. He earned it by manipulating systems the Duttons can't even comprehend. When he steps onto Dutton soil, it's not to connect with the land, it's to consume it. A new breed of enemy. Yellowstone has given us many antagonists over the years. Land developers, broken cowboys, jealous family members. But 1923 suggests the next villain may be the most dangerous yet. Someone who doesn't need to fire a shot to kill a ranch. The kind of man who can do more damage in a boardroom than an outlaw can do with a six-shooter. He gets rich somewhere else. Then he comes to Montana, not to escape, but to conquer. Picture him. Silk tie, three-piece suit, silver cufflinks gleaming under the Montana sun. Maybe he arrives in a private rail car or an early model airplane. He calls Jacob Dutton sir, but only to lull him into a false sense of respect. He brings gifts, liquor, cigars, maybe a promise of partnership. But what he really brings is entropy. He's the tip of a spear called progress, and he doesn't care how many families he has to displace to plant his flag. He might not look like a villain. He might look like a friend. That's what makes him dangerous. The echoes through time. What makes 1923 so compelling is its sense of inevitability. You can feel the future bearing down on the Duttons like a cattle drive headed for a cliff. The decisions made in this chapter ripple forward, affecting every generation of Duttons to come. We've seen the toll in Yellowstone. John Dutton fighting zoning boards and corporate sharks with the same fury his ancestors used against rustlers and railroad men. But 1923 adds nuance. It reminds us that this war didn't start with John. It started long ago, with Jacob and Kara holding the line against forces they barely understood. Forces that didn't need to ride into town with guns blazing. They arrived in town meetings, in deeds and ledgers and schemes whispered behind velvet doors. He gets rich somewhere else, then he comes to Montana. It could be said about Dan Jenkins in Yellowstone, about market equities. But in 1923, we're watching the origin story, the first one. The one that teaches the Duttons not just how to fight, but who they're really fighting. A villain with legacy. What if this next villain isn't just a one-season antagonist? What if he's a foundational figure, a man whose family will still be antagonizing the Duttons 100 years later? Maybe the villain of 1923's next season is the ancestor of the developers in Yellowstone. Maybe he plants the first seed of corporate encroachment in Montana. He starts small, buying up struggling ranches, funding roads that benefit the county but really lead to new development. Before long, he controls water rights, grazing permits, even politicians. He doesn't just want the Yellowstone ranch. He wants every ranch.